Over to you, Nick, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the ARC conference call. And really, before looking at the very exciting news that we've announced this morning, I thought it would be useful to briefly recap on some of the key milestones during 2018. It was a busy year, and it's easy to forget how much we actually achieved. So following a major change in our strategy, as you know, and a change out of the whole board of directors, we set out to acquire controlling stakes in two key African mining assets, namely Chiesa Mining and Zamsort. We completed Chiesa in early 2018, followed by a successful drilling program, resulting in an upgrade in the resource from 1 to 3 million ounces, which is a great outcome and certainly put Chiesa on the map in respect of size and grade. This was then swiftly followed by the acquisition of Zamsort in May last year. We completed a drilling program at Calibre, which was the most obvious target outcropping on surface, and the primary target to feed the small-scale demonstration plant that, as you know, and I've repeated many times, that we inherited. We also completed the last 25% work on the demo plant for less than $500,000, together with our partner, Copper. This was and is important, as it was a key part of our license obligation at Zamsort. I'm pleased to report that the plant is operational, and to date we've produced some copper-cobalt concentrates through batch processing. We're also finalizing work and completing a small chalk mineral resource at Calibre, which could ideally feed the plant, and we are looking at a range of options in this regard. I'm sure you'll have questions on the plant and any related issues, and I'm happy to answer those. That left us then with the most critical part of our strategy, identifying what we had in the almost 1,000 square kilometers at Zamsort and Zaco. This involved collecting some 36,000 soil samples, which is a high number in any exploration company, or even a major, over a massive area, in parts inhospitable bush, and over 12 months of extremely hard work and detailed follow-up analysis, together with the completion of an extensive airborne survey, which we did last year. This was then followed up again by several infill soil sampling programs this year, where we narrowed spacing from 1 kilometer to 200 meters going west to east and 50 meters north to south. These results are still being received and which will be progressively announced. We now have an excellent regional understanding and a suite of drill targets, 8 major ones, 12 in total, many of which could be separate listed juniors by themselves, which I've highlighted this morning in the press release. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, we now know we are sitting on an opportunity here consisting of a range of very large and exciting anomalies. This is not a one-trick pony junior, but a company blessed with a potentially large and extensive suite of projects. A number of you have asked through emails why no press releases during the past few months during the rainy season. And to that, I have a simple response. We were doing the hard yards in a systematic and detailed way, delineating what we have. I'm personally not interested in filling the void with countless press releases, as is the practice of many of our competitors. If that's your desire, there are many other companies that want to invest in. We are here after the real thing. I joined ARC not to run a junior, but to unlock what I think is one of the most prospective copper opportunities around. Some of you know my background. I've been with Anglo American for over 20 years as a senior executive. I was intrigued by what we had, by what Zamsort had. Anglo's ranking of this region's prospects include today a number of multi-billion-dollar operations, and that includes Kalumbila, which is only a stone's throw from us, some 40 kilometers. And many of our prospects were at the time ranked even higher. This is the real opportunity. You'll recall that I disclosed that we had been approached by a number of majors interested in signing NDAs with us last year. Not only are these still active, but we've recently had another major U.S. mining company approach us and sign another NDA. This is a good sign, a very good sign. But please rest assured, I know how to play this game, and we certainly won't be rushing to sign away our exciting prospect anytime soon. We have now moved swiftly to deploy drill rigs as soon as the wet weather allowed, and I now look forward to reporting back soon on results from our first program of drilling at Chiesa, where we are sitting on a 10-kilometer by 8-kilometer anomaly. Of particular interest, as I mentioned earlier today, is a 3 by 8 by 0.8 kilometer anomaly at Chiesa East, and in between a third new target of Chiesa Central. In addition to this, we have a significant number of other major targets, including Lumbeta, Muswema, Fuiji, Jatumu, to name a few. We issued a few maps today, and if you look at map 2, which is the geochem and geophysical map, you will see the series of anomalies that we have, and that where we're planning to start drilling imminently at Chiesa. At the bottom, you will see a very small light purple, what is almost a pimple, and that is Caliber. And that, ladies and gentlemen, puts into perspective what we were drilling and what we have on our plate today. Through sheer hard work, we have identified a number of extremely interesting prospects, and this is where the work lies for the next 6 months or so. We are also extremely fortunate to have secured a number of significant funders. I've always said we deserve the shareholders we have. I was in Stockholm a few weeks ago meeting many of our Swedish funders. Together with other family offices, we are now steadily moving to attracting the right sort of investor base, namely long-term holders who can see the picture here developing and what we can really potentially unlock, with capital to back us. You will have seen the recent TR1 notice by one of our big Swedish investors this week, and the appointment of Remy Welschinger to our board, who was instrumental in introducing us to the Swedish family offices and the Omanis. In fact, if you add up the various individual investors from both Sweden and Oman, they total close to 20% economic interest in ARC. That is a major step forward. Lastly, before we go to questions, we have used 2 consultancies, external consultancies, to assist us with our work. One is AMC, which were instrumental in discovering Kamoa, which is one of the largest copper discoveries in recent times, and Momentum, who have reviewed and endorsed our findings. And I'm delighted to welcome Andrew Dacey here today, who will give his third-party assessment of what we have on our plate. Andrew is a very experienced exploration geologist. Has been involved in a number of successful discoveries, including a major copper-gold project in Mongolia, and part of a discovery team that identified a major asset in Mexico, which was sold for $1.2 billion. So a lot of success under his belt. So before we go to questions, I'd like Andrew really just to give a quick overview of his views as to, he's been working with us for now almost 7-8 months. And by the way, looked at this with a completely clean slate without any sort of indications of what we believe we have there. Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. It's been great to be involved with ARC over the last 7 or 8 months, and what is fast becoming a sort of an emerging new district within Zambia, very highly prospective for copper, cobalt. Nick touched on the amount of work that was done in the form of collecting soil samples, etc., down at Zamsort. And I really want to sort of reiterate that as a geologist, we're all about data and collecting information. And the work done by Vasily Corellis and his team down in Zambia has been truly outstanding. It's a huge undertaking to collect 30,000 soil samples and assay them. And there's a lot of congratulations need to go to them for the work they've done. It is quite outstanding. And as a result of that work, we have, as Nick mentioned, discovered 8 major and out of a total of 12 anomalies in the Zamsort license. And these are all pretty significant. I think map 1, which has the names of the major ones, really sort of puts it into perspective when you see the size of the Chiesa East and West anomaly or the Fuiji anomaly, and then you look down sort of in the center bottom and you see the tiny little Caliber project down there with its tiny little anomaly, and you realize the scale and what the opportunity that does lie within the rest of the license. So it's been really good to be involved with this and sort of looking at all the results that are starting to come in, interpretation, and come up with ideas as to where we should be drilling. And over the next month or so when that starts, I think we're going to get a lot more information. It's going to be a really exciting next few months for the company. So just to summarize it, I'm really excited to be part of this team and be working towards this. It's a great opportunity. As a geologist, I love to find mines and successful mines. And I'm very pleased to be working with Nick and his team here, and looking forward to the next 6 months or so.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. So with that, happy to take any calls. I might add that we have our chief geologist and his team at site at the moment, and hopefully they've been able to dial in, Vasily and Crispin Chisanga. But happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Nick, for that comprehensive and exciting update. Just to remind us people on the call, it would be #1 to unmute your line to ask the question, and then would appreciate it if you remuted after so that the call, there's not too much background noise. So do we have any questions?
Hi, hello.
Yep. Hi there.
Hi, it's Phil Swinfen from Shard Capital.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, morning, Nick. Just a question: do you have an idea what the kind of the magnitude of drilling will be yet in terms of meters, or is that something you're going to take on a target by target basis, depending on the results?
Phil, yes, we do. I mean, we're going to be drilling about 2,400 meters at the moment at Chiesa East and West, so about roughly 1,200 at each, and the two anomalies are sort of 5 kilometers apart. So it a little bit depends on what we get out of where we drill first. Our first target will be Chiesa East. And so, if we think that's actually more exciting or exceeding expectations, it may well be that we move a second rig there, or possibly even a third. But that's the starting point at Chiesa. For the rest, we haven't identified yet any sort of drilling programs. We're still awaiting the infill soil sampling details for the others.
Okay, fine. Are you happy with the resolution of the soil geochem? I think you mentioned it was 200 meter by 50 meter grid at the moment.
Yeah.
In terms of your targeting.
Yeah, I might ask Andrew. Andrew's been cutting this in depth. Andrew, do you want to have a...
Yeah, hi Phil, thanks.
Hi, Andrew.
The regional sampling was completed on a 1 kilometre spacing, and that was about 27,000 samples. And then out of that, we identified half a dozen areas we think warrants going back and tightening up the soil spacing from down to 200 metre line spacing. We're maintaining a 50 metre sample spacing along the lines, and we're from that we're pretty confident. I mean, when you look at the Chiesa East anomaly, it's 3 kilometres long, it's 800 metres wide, and has results up to 3,000, almost 3,000 ppm in there. So it's pretty high and pretty well defined. It's pretty well constrained. It is a large anomaly, so it is going to take a bit of work to fully investigate it. But it's nice to have that, and I'm pretty confident and comfortable with that line spacing. We don't need to narrow it anymore. I don't think we'll get much more additional information by going down to 100 meters, for example.
Okay, fine. Do you have any plans for any ground-based geophysics?
Look, we have considered looking at IP and various other methods like that. Historically, they haven't worked or haven't been of great use in the copper belt. The most useful is airborne magnetics and radiometrics, and of course we did that in the end of 2018. And that's been a really good data set. That was done at 200 meter line spacing over the whole license. So again, that was a large program, over 1,000 square kilometers. A lot of very, very useful information out of that, and that's been critical to our sort of key to understanding most, just another layer of information to work with the geochemistry to help prioritize the targets.
Yeah, okay. That probably leads to my last question then. Just looking at the maps, it's an enormous area. I just kind of wondered where you are. I mean, obviously you haven't drilled yet. You've done a bit of drilling down at Calaba in terms of the geology, but where you feel you might sit in terms of the copper belt, so looking at some of the regional structures, faults, fluid flow, and then some of the other elements, results from the geochems, the cobalt, arsenic. How does that all kind of tie together in your kind of early understanding of the opportunity?
So look, I think that's really sort of premature to sort of speculate until we really have more detailed information. I mean, I think the exercise we did was very comprehensive, but as John Mayer pointed out, these are soil samples, and we obviously need to do further drilling. I mean, I think once we get drilling, I mean, I think there'll be a lot more information when we understand this stratigraphy better. Post the diamond drilling, which we're about to start.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's all from me. Thanks.
Okay, just a reminder, #1 to unmute your line if you would like to ask a question. Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I was wondering just quickly on the demonstration plant, if you could let us know when you expect to be generating some cash from that and what sort of number you expect to get.
Sure. Look, so as I said in my introductory comments, the demonstration plant was roughly sort of 75% complete, without a resource having been identified. It's not the way we would ever have done things, because normally you would identify the resource and then assess whether you would need a plant or would want to build a plant to process that resource.
Yep.
So it was done completely arse about face. Nevertheless, it was important for our license requirements to finish it, which we did. The plant is producing. We're running it at sort of 8 hours a day. It's really on a batch process basis. And, there's no issue with the plant itself, which is the good news. So, I mean, that's running and it's operational, and we've done it, frankly, on a shoestring.
Yep.
The key issue here is the economics, because as I think most of you who follow metal prices will have picked up, almost when we started drilling that caliber resource around the plant, which is, we've said many times, is more of a cobalt deposit with some copper. Of course, the cobalt price has collapsed by almost 60% in the meantime. So it's sitting at $30,000 now, around there. Was close to $90,000. So obviously that has a major impact on the economics of the plant. So what we need is obviously grade that hopefully has much higher copper content, copper grade than that we would need to make this plant viable. So we're now on our, I think, 4th iteration of the mineral resource estimate that we're almost completed. But that says everything, because it is all around trying to identify the right sort of oxide resource around that plant to enable it to operate profitably. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy. It's not. This is a cobalt project with a collapse in the cobalt price. But we'll update on that as soon as we have more information.
Thank you. Understood. Thanks.
Okay, next question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. Just a simple question, which might be a bit difficult to answer, but given the development path which you've explained, and should you find what you hope to find, can you just give a brief summary of where you expect to be in this time next year, in 2 years' time, please?
Look, I don't think that's wise. So look, this is an exploration game, if that's what you're referring to, and we will do our best, with every resource that we have to hand to profitably delineate what we have and identify what we have, and obviously the good Lord has to put the metal in the right place, so we need to find it in the right place as well. But look, there's no shortage of opportunities. I mean, I've outlined the 2 big Chiesa opportunities. We will be in a year's time. We will certainly have drilled those. Highly likely we'll have looked at Lumbeta and Muswema as well, and possibly Fuji. But beyond that, I can't say. Equally, if Chiesa West is the mother lode, and that's where all the effort should be focused, we may only look at that. We'll have to see. But let's start step by step here.
Good afternoon, Nick. Joel Deakin, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hi, John.
I've got a few questions. So I'll just go through them one by one. So first question, last year with the labs, it at least felt like, some of the drill results kind of got stuck. So will we be looking at utilizing other labs to try and get the results faster? Secondly, with the CSD plant, do we have, presumably we have offtake agreements in place now? And the announcement you put out probably a month or two ago talked about the initial production being from the stockpiled 10,000 tons, which was at 2% copper. So presumably that would have been relatively profitable. So just asking for confirmation of that. Thirdly, I believe you just stated about 5-10 minutes ago that you were looking still to do a caliber JORC. Obviously, that was initially planned for sort of towards the end of last year, and so I got my impression was that the company wasn't now focused on that. And finally, it's great to see Remy being brought onto the board. You have another board member, Brian McMaster, who's the involved with running Jangada Mines, and myself and perhaps other investors aren't overly impressed with the way that he's been running that business. So I wonder whether, you don't have to answer this question, but essentially it's whether you consider having him removed from the board, because I think his place is actually a negative for the company. That's all the questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, look, just sort of identifying each in turn. So the assay results from the labs, this was two factors. I mean, one is, yes, they were slow, but the alternative was sending them off to Australia. We've looked at other labs in South Africa, and so at the moment we are sticking with SGS, who will do our assays. But you'll rest assured that we've read them the right act. That this needs to be much quicker processing. And actually, at the end, it was much better. Some of their hesitancy in processing some of our material was really linked to some historical issues relating to Zamsort and their creditworthiness before ARC got involved. So let me leave it at that. I think those concerns have been addressed, and they are dealing with a very different beast, and we do wherever we can pay our bills on time. So I don't expect that to be an issue, and they're compliant in every other way. And rest assured, if there are any delays, we'll be moving swiftly to somebody else. As far as the CSD and potential offtake, I mean, the key for any offtake agreement is obviously not only to see what can be, profitably extracted from the copper-cobalt cake, and it's not clear yet in terms of the work we're doing as to how much cobalt we can extract. Maybe a secondary issue anyway from an economics point of view, but and then obviously they will want obviously to have the security of a reasonable line of production coming through, and we haven't finished that work. As I say, we're on the fourth iteration, hopefully the final one around the mineral resource around Caliber. I mean, it's going to be reasonably small. Why are we continuing it? I mean, I think if there's a way that we can run that plant, it is a pilot plant, I might remind you. It's not the tail that's going to be wagging this dog, but if there's a way we can run it profitably by putting in some resource from the area from around Caliber, we will do so. I guess the other potential route we could look at, if we do identify any sort of significant oxide resource in some of these other areas that we're drilling, of course the CSD plant would of course be able to handle that. It would need to be transported, but so all bets aren't off the table in respect of the plant. So we'll keep our options open there. The stockpile, yes, you're correct. We are processing that. We're batch processing it. It's a very slow process. So we're producing, a little bit every day, and we're sending that off, to a number of labs to have analysed. And then in regard to the JORC, I think I've touched on that. It's something we've promised to the market. We think it makes sense to delineate a JORC resource around that, to really see what sort of future that plant could have. Again, this is an economics issue, and in a predominantly cobalt-denominated resource, we need to be cognizant that the cobalt price hasn't helped us. We'd be looking at a very different outcome, I think, if cobalt was still at $90,000. But that's the risk of mining. And I hasten to add, we have never been keen on actually running this plant from the outset. If we'd had a reset button, this is something we inherited, and we wanted to finish off, but also because of the requirements of the license area. Lastly, on Brian McMaster, I'm not going to comment on Jangada. It would be inappropriate for me to, and you should direct your questions to Brian on that. I found Brian an outstanding director. He's incredibly experienced, and has added a huge amount of value in terms of some of the restructuring issues, some of the legal issues, financial issues that we deal with from time to time. So, I'm very pleased with Brian's contribution. I mean, obviously, I am on the board of Jangada, so I know it's been an incredibly tough time for them, and the decisions taken, have not been easy. But it wouldn't be appropriate for me to go into that in any detail on this call. But I'm happy to talk to you separately with my Jangada hat on, or ideally even get Brian on as well. Joel, I hope that answers.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Nick.
Hi, Nick. I was just wondering if maybe yourself and Andrew could explain why the Chiesa Prospect stood out more so than the others, because the very colourful map here shows that certainly there's some very high ppm concentrations here. But is it the case that it's all the studies are finished there and it's first one out the blocks, or is it a combination of a lot of different angles you've been looking at this from?
Look, I think this is all about sort of putting in layers of evidence, and we're building a more accurate picture. The sort of third layer, in addition to the airborne survey and obviously the initial soil sampling we've done, is this infill soil sampling exercise where we've collected, like another 7,000 samples, and that has given us a much clearer picture than say what we have at the other anomalies. I might just ask Vasily if he's on the line. Vasily, if you're on the line, do you want to comment? Otherwise, Andrew can. I'm not sure Vasily's on. Andrew, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. I guess Chiesa was an obvious target from the outset, and as we got more and more data in the form of the geophysics, we also looked at some historical data which dates from the 70s, 80s, I think, and the 90s, and all this information just provided different layers of and different vectors, all sort of pointing towards Chiesa, which we split into two, Chiesa West and Chiesa East, as being the number one sort of target area. Lambeta and Zatoomba also came up quite high in the rankings, but the Chiesa area was constantly coming up as the best one to focus on. So that's why we did the infill soil sampling there first, and the result of that is that it's further identified and sort of highlighted the prospectivity of that area, and to get a 3 kilometre by almost 1 kilometre wide copper and soil anomaly with values up to 3,000 ppm is tremendous, and it's clear that's why the drill pad preparation has been going on there, and that's where we're going to be focusing first. It's a great target, and I'm really excited to see what's coming out of that in the next few months.
Thank you. Well, when will we begin drilling, by the way? So, soon?
Well, look, we're mobilizing rigs, so this is quite harsh terrain. Involves at times chopping down trees and redirecting dirt paths and roads and so on. So it'll be soon. Any other questions?
Yeah, Nick, given the size of the potential deposits, and obviously, having looked at the maps and seeing the size of Chesnea versus things like Calabar and Fuigi, these are potentially massive areas. At what point do you consider a JV partner coming in and sort of helping you with the heavy work? I mean, I know that you're very much focused on you wouldn't entertain these things too early because you'd sort of be underselling. But where do you hit the sort of critical point and someone comes on, you say, right, guys, let's go and do this together?
Look, difficult question, and there's so many different formulations that are possible. And again, I'm sort of reasonably well versed in this from having worked with a major before. So the type of deal I think we do not want is where they have an earn up to 90% over a number of years and they put in whatever it is, $5-10 million to develop it. I mean that would just be the end as far as all of us on the call are concerned, with them taking all the upside. I mean, there are other possible structures that one could look at, where they take potentially a stake at the top co, i.e. into Arc Minerals itself, and funds the underlying project that way. That's something that we've mooted with at least one of the parties we're talking to, and they certainly have, they certainly did not reject it out of hand. So I think it's a little bit of suck it and see, and of course it depends also, on our capital structure. I mean, if for example, as we're busy trying very hard, I might add, to sell our two remaining non-core assets, which is Casa and Sturek. I mean, if we got a knockout price for Casa, which is certainly feasible, and we had 10 million, 20 million, whatever it is in the bank, would be rushing around to get a major involved? Answer no. Would be deploying a number of rigs. If that scenario did not develop, and we felt with the limited capital that we have, we could only drill two of these, and it made sense maybe to go in a 50-50 with a less high priority target with a major. Maybe we do that. So it's a little bit premature to speculate, but we can look at a range of those options with the major. The good news is that we have a number of majors that are extremely interested and are in regular contact with us and are watching us closely.
Thank you.
Hi, Nick. With Casa, can you give us an update, please, on the NDAs that are outstanding still? Where are we up to with those currently, please?
Sure. So with Casa, we have currently close to 4, I think, NDAs in place. There are probably two sort of front runners, if you like, that are doing quite a lot of work on the asset. Much more than that, I can't really say. Look, it's the DRC. For the run up to last year's presidential elections was a sort of delicate phase, and there were concerns about whether the elections could result in a sort of renewed outbreak of civil war potentially, and that luckily did not emanate, and we've got President Tshisekedi now in charge there, and I think the fact that it's a sort of been a pretty sort of relatively harmonious handover to the new government is a positive, and we are getting an increased number of parties coming to us just to have a look. We've reached out, I think, now to 130 different parties in China, where I think the most obvious buyers will be for this, and one or two of those have come to the surface. So, this is an asset that is potentially very valuable. It's as you know, it's a 3 million ounce resource, and we should not fire sale it, and we should not simply just spin it off into some junior where we pass the problem to you, our shareholders. I mean, that would be the easy thing to do, but I'm not into the easy solution. So we'll keep it. We're slashing and burning the cost base there, and that's not been easy. But we think that's the right course of action whilst we hold this asset. And of course, if the gold market comes back a bit, you've seen the gold price move over the last few days. Maybe that's a turn for the future. Hopefully, that always ekes out further interest. So, we keep that asset and we spend minimum on it, and hopefully, over the next 12 months or so, we will find a willing buyer. It's certainly a valuable asset. Next question. Okay, well, I think that wraps things up. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and you guys know my email. Feel free to ping through an email anytime. And really, just in summary, I think, after a very long period of extremely hard work, we have a really good understanding of the region here that we have under our belt. And I think I'm somebody asked me the other day, are you more or less excited than you were 12 months ago? And I said exponentially more excited. So, we have an enviable series of anomalies here that we're getting cracking with over the next few weeks. The news flow will be very frequent and hopefully positive. And we have the backers in terms of almost a 20% economic base of our shareholders who certainly are willing to put more capital behind us, and so really look forward to the next few months, and look forward to updating all of you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.